A young world. A world early in the morning of time. A hard, unfriendly world.
This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions.
Creatures who sit and wait. Creatures who must kill to live. And man, superior to the creatures only in his cunning. There are not many men yet, just a few tribes scattered across the wilderness, never venturing far, unaware that other tribes exist even. Too busy with their own lives to be curious, too frightened of the unknown to wander. Their laws are simple. The strong take everything. This is Akoba, leader of the Rock Tribe.
Sakana!
And these are his sons, Sukana and Tumak.
Tumak!
There is no love lost between them. And that is our story.
Welcome to the Invasion of the Remake podcast, where we talk about remaking movies in the future, but we're going to go way back in the past this week.
Way freaking back.
Yeah, we're going to celebrate the new year with a ahistorical. You know how when they talk about historical movies, but that aren't historically laid in fact, they call it ahistorical, like it's giving it a grade? It should be F-historical.
Yeah. Actually, they shouldn't even use the word historical. It should be something entirely different because there is no history in this whatsoever.
No. In case you had missed it, I'm Jason Bishop, and that's Sam Stepanenko, and we're going to be talking about 1 million years BC and the original film, which was just 1 million BC.
Yes.
From 1940. And most people will remember the 66 for the fur bikini of Raquel Welch, but most people probably don't even remember the 1940 even exists because it's a toughie to find.
It is a toughie, and I mean it's funny because it coined the term slurposaur, right? Which is when they use real animals and use them to as a replacement for like dinosaurs and stuff like that.
So much glue.
So much glue. Oh. And you know what? I do have to say that it actually looks pretty good.
You know, for the compositing of the day, there was some stuff that I was actually really impressed with. I mean, what probably was very apparent animal cruelty for 1940. I mean, this is pre-SPCA and the laws that animals shall not be harmed in film. So I guess that might be one of the reasons why this movie is really hard to find. It was heavily edited in the UK because of it.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, certainly there's that one scene where definitely an animal was unquestionably badly injured, if not killed.
Yeah. Oh, dude, when the dude jumps on the Triceratops that I think was a Shih Tzu.
No, it was a pig.
It was a pig, and it was so small.
It was so small, but yeah, it was a pig.
But overall, like when they do the giant lizard stuff, the compositing is so good. Like even now, I mean, I'm probably watching a fairly well cleaned up, restored print of this at this point, but it looks really good. They shoot those fights and those monsters from several different angles, all consistent with their backgrounds. At one point, when you got Tumac hiding underneath as the lizards are wrestling above him, you can actually see the lizards wrestling over top of him through this crevice that he's hiding in.
Really well done.
And I was actually really impressed with that, how well it was done. And it was nominated, I think, for special effects awards.
For two Academy Awards, one of them was special effects, yeah. And, I was watching it going, geez, this is better than some of the stuff I saw in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I mean, I understand that to a certain extent, some of this was easier to do in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
But
it covers up the seams, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does a little bit. But
sometimes.
But it still works.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you're not going to cover up the fact that, you're throwing fur over a real elephant to make it look like a mastodon, and you're throwing horns on a pig to make it look like a triceratops, and
gluing horns to an armadillo,
and alligators, and with the big fin on the back. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a paleontologist, a historian, just turn this off right now. or listen to us and laugh, but don't go watch those fucking movies. They're going to drive you up the wall.
Even as somebody who's not an expert in that field, it was painful.
Yeah, I mean, there are clearly mammals that shouldn't exist in the time period they were setting, including humans.
Yes.
Because I don't think man started arising until 200,000 BC.
That's what yes.
So, I mean, these movies certainly inspired other ones, but we're focusing on the two actually called 1 million BC because of the anachronistic garbage, the complete misunderstanding of history and fact as a whole. I think we'll just coin the term "fuck facts" in this whole show.
Yes, yeah, because there aren't any.
No, not at all.
Yeah, none whatsoever. This has probably been my most painful watch in a long time. It was hard to get through both of these movies.
That's saying something, because we did Galaxina last week.
Yes. Yes. But Galaxina was entertaining in its badness. This was not even entertaining for the most part.
There are times I dug the story that was going on once you kind of figure out who the players are, because it's not particularly easy.
Especially in the remake. The remake was, because I watched the remake first, and I found it, the whole movie, I'm going, what the fuck is going on? I didn't find it as coherent as the original. I will say that.
I think the original does a little bit better job at introducing his players with that ridiculous opening. Oh my God.
Yes.
I was howling. I'm like, I'm going to love this movie.
I got the text.
Yeah, that's right.
He was wrong, but
I texted him. I'm like, the opening of this movie is amazing, and I don't think he got my sarcasm.
Yes, no, I did.
But it opens with what I'm assuming a party of people in Lederhosen that were on their way to Oktoberfest that got lost in the mountains and find this lone archaeologist. I assume he's an archaeologist because he's got lights set up in this cave and he's looking at the cave drawings trying to decipher the story, but for some reason hasn't even considered what ancient man looked like. You two. They look like you two.
Yes.
She points to these two random people who just happen to be the leads in the movie.
Funny how that worked.
So I'm like, all right, at least that I'm going to be fine with you too.
Yes.
But I was just howling because I'm like, what are these guys doing in the later hosen? Where are they going? What are they doing? I'm like, hey, we're lost, but cool. You have a cave. Tell us a story.
Because it's raining out. We might as well get a story.
My people will love this.
Yes, but you better get out of those wet clothes. Don't forget that part.
Yeah. I didn't know. I was like, what was going on here? Why is this guy in this cave all by himself in this kind of furry vest?
Yeah.
I'm like, I think he's probably more a transient that wound up finding a cave to live in.
Yeah. And I understood what they were trying to do there. I mean, the same thing that the voiceover did in the remake was try to sort of set up the story.
Yeah, and it fused with this professor kind of giving a lecture to a bunch of strangers.
Yes, and I actually genuinely think that the movie would have worked better if he had narrated more of the movie.
I think by both versions, the UK Hammer version in '66 could have benefited with that as well. I'm like, why bother starting with the narrator and then never going back to it again? Like, it would help bridge some of the sequences, because the '66 they do tell us about Tumac, Sakana, his brother, and their father, Akoba.
Akoba, sorry, yes.
That's pretty much all we're really introduced to.
And Loana.
Loana later, yeah.
Yes, Raquel Welch.
Oh my God, I that must be Time's first bikini.
Actually, there's an article where they explain exactly that. She was the first bikini on screen. It may not be the very first bikini.
Well, I was just thinking if, 1 million BC, it's got to be the world's first bikini.
Oh, it's probably the world's first bikini.
And I got to say, they perfected women really early.
Apparently, yes. Right, apparently. I mean, let's face it. In 1 million BC, clothes probably didn't even exist. They were fudging a bit there, but...
Oh, a bit? Like they weren't fudging the time, the place, the people.
Yes.
The animals.
Like everything was fudged.
It was, fuck it, everything existed and coexisted all at once. Deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, they were talking about how the bikinis, her costume got created, is basically she went into the costume designer, they draped her in...
Fur, and they just kept cutting.
And they just kept cutting, yeah. Yeah, they couldn't have cut away much more.
No, I mean, I kept like, am I going to see something?
Yeah, that would.
Even with the guys, I was like, am I going to see something?
Yeah, a little bit worried about it, actually.
Oh, yeah, I was too. Like,
yeah, there's some
tackle and bait going on there.
Yes, there's some things you just don't want to see in a movie from 1966, or ever for that matter.
Yeah, and I can say I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much if just you had to leave some stuff to the imagination. With Raquel, there wasn't much, but
there was enough.
There was just enough. And yeah, she did a pretty capable job acting as well. This is definitely one of her earlier films.
Yes, it was.
They kept saying introducing, but in the trailer,
she'd done Fantastic Voyage prior to that.
Well, I think it was the same year, but there were I think 3 more credits prior to this one, and maybe it was introducing that to a particular audience rather than
possibly. It's hard to say. But
I mean, Bedazzled was around the same time.
It was a year after.
Yeah.
The only reason she did this film was so that she could be in London in the swinging 60s.
No,
that's the only reason that she wanted to. She agreed to do it. Because
party girl.
Yeah, because she had no desire to do this movie.
I can understand why. Yeah. Although there's some great people in the '66.
Yes,
the '40s. I mean, the '40s are so far back. The only real notable name I think was Lon Chaney Jr. At this point.
This is a fairly early role for him.
It's a pretty early role. I mean, and you got to think this is produced by D.W. Griffith, who I think had a big hand in the casting of this as well, and directed by Hal Roach and Hal Roach Jr., which, Jesus, when you think about the history of film, I think a lot better than that.
Yeah, really. I mean, I was actually doing a little research on Hal Roach, and he has 1,227 producing credits.
Which is insane, but you got to think about how quickly in the 40s and fired them out. Yeah, I mean, it's not like now where, you get a popular movie and you don't see the sequel for 4 years. Yeah. And back then it was like, oh, that worked really well. I mean, look how quickly the Bond movies were coming out. I mean, you were getting one a year.
Yeah. Interesting that you connect to Bond.
Oh, yeah, we'll get there.
Okay.
I figure I'll set it up now. Yeah. But the original film, 1 Million BC from 1940, as I said, directed by Hal Roaches.
Yes.
Starring Victor Mature as Tumac, Carol Landis as Loana, Lon Chaney Jr. as the father figure Akoba. Conrad Nagel was the narrator in the later Hosen. The furry vest. The furry vest.
Yes.
Also starring John Hubbard, Nigel Del Bruyere, Mamo Clark, Inez Palange, Edgar Edwards, Jacqueline Dela, and Mary Gail Fisher, among others, because it is a very big cast.
It is a very big cast. I mean, really is focused on 2 three characters really, but yeah, I mean, given the nature of it, they had big tribes.
Yeah, both these movies were they rate about the same on IMDb, 5.7 for the 66, 5.8 for the 1940,
which I find exceptionally high.
I don't think they're terrible, but I'm like, from a historian, from a historical setting, but as a fantasy film, they're not bad. Like, there are things that I think you could do better, but I mean, for the time, what they were trying to do, they did okay. I mean, when you started having to do like a T-Rex attack in 1940 and it's just some dude in a suit, that looks pretty bad.
It does look pretty bad, but of the two, I preferred the 40.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a big fan of Ray Harryhausen, so every time the Harryhausen stuff popped up, I'm like, oh, that looks really good.
Oh, for sure. As far as but as a complete movie, I think that the 1940s was more of a complete movie versus the 1966, which had some great things happening in it.
Yeah, well, like, I think there's certain things that each movie does better than the other, but there's that 1940s kind of stage overacting that was kind of held over from the silent era that kind of bugged me.
That bugged me.
That crazy overacting where, Tumac looks like he's gonna hit somebody, but he's probably one of the most underdeveloped cavemen I've ever seen.
Oh, for sure.
He's just kind of flabby, and I'm like, are you threatening or are you in panic mode?
Yes.
Like, I couldn't tell what emotion he was trying to evoke.
Well, like I said, I don't think either of the movies was particularly good. But I just found that I was able to follow the story a lot better with the 1940s one.
Yeah, well, I think it comes together fairly easily in the 1940 and more succinctly, which is funny because there's moments I think that spends more time on in the 1940 that are more important that the 66 spends less time on being a longer movie.
Yes.
But I think they're giving more time to Ray Harryhausen's effects.
Oh, for sure. There's no question.
So there are things that have to get tightened up and shortened up, especially the budding relationship of Luana and Tumac, when Tumac is thrust out of his tribe as he's basically fighting over possession. I mean, his tribe is very much a power tribe, the survival of the fittest, the strongest take what's theirs.
Well, when I was watching the original, I was watching that opening segment with the tribe.
Yeah.
I'm like,
where the old man falls and everybody's like, huh.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like we don't care. There's no compassion, right? And I mean, a catchphrase nowadays is toxic masculinity. Mm-hmm. This really does show that.
Yeah,
really, really well, actually.
Yeah,
I mean, it's because it is men get stuff first, and it's the strongest man who gets it first.
Yeah, it was in that particular tribe. They hadn't really developed a sense of community and helping each other. It was survival of the fittest, the strongest take, and men first, and then everybody else is like, oh, you got to fight for the scraps.
Yeah, and if I want your scraps, I'm going to take them anyway.
Yeah, and if the chieftain, that happens to be your dad, regardless, doesn't matter. If he wants to eat more, he's going to take it.
Yes,
and
that's what happens.
That's what happened with Tumac and why he gets thrust out. There's a big fight. He falls off a cliff, and
can we talk about the original when he falls off the cliff?
Oh God, it's crazy. That one's even more insane. It's funny when you think of Hammer and trying to hold back.
Yes,
but with the 1940, oh my lord!
Well, because he just falls straight off the cliff and lands on his fucking head. You see the neck bend, and then he gets up like I'm a little bit dazed, but I'm okay.
I'm all right. But it's not the first one. He takes another tumble.
Yes, but it was like, they're like, that'll do. That was a total that'll do dummy drop.
Yeah, and I'll be like, yeah, exactly. It's like, all right. And then he washes ashore. He's from the Rock tribe, and he washes ashore near the Shell tribe. And that's where I think the story really picks up, and I really started enjoying the movie, is because we're seeing that difference of tribes. Man is still very far apart from each other and sparse, and most tribes are completely unaware of each other.
And yeah, that was the other thing that I got from, again, more so from the original than from the remake, was that
They said that right in the narration.
I know. I know they did, but it still didn't. But as you were watching it, it didn't convey that very well.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I enjoyed more about the original is they showed that so much better. Right. Especially Tumok's experience in the tribe, sort of learning how to cooperate to become a stronger tribe. Right. I really enjoyed that portion of the original movie.
Yeah, and I think they do that better. Like, well, it feels like he spends more time with the tribe. They're more advanced. They've learned how to fashion weapons and spears, where his tribe was just basically sticks, so to defend themselves. But being from a more warrior tribe, Tumak instinctively knew how to use them better.
Yes.
He still had that possessiveness. I'm going to take what's yours for mine and fuck you if you don't like it, which inevitably gets him thrown out of the tribe. Yeah. But, he's helped defend the tribe in this movie. In both movies, but from attacks, he's helped them with the fruit on the tree. I thought that was a funny scene where
it was really good, actually.
In both movies they do that quite well, and the kids are trying to knock the fruit off the tree. They hadn't figured out, he just runs up it like a monkey and starts shaking the fruit off the tree, and then everybody's laughing, which is a very foreign thing for him. There's no laughter in his tribe. There's no fun in his tribe.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed the juxtaposition in the original.
Yeah,
because they made it so apparent.
Yeah,
right? And I just didn't get that same sense from.
Well, I didn't
the remake.
I didn't feel like they took enough time to tell that part of the story. No. And I mean, it's there. It just happens really quickly, and I feel like you need to kind of live in that moment a little longer.
Yeah, and I think that was the advantage I got by watching them backwards this time. Because usually I don't. Usually I watch the original and then the remake. But with this particular viewing, I think that I got more from the original because I could see what was missing from the remake. But yeah, I actually found the story easier to follow because the one thing they did in the remake that was really frustrating for me is that long journey from Tumok's tribe to Loana's tribe to the Shell tribe is because he just kept getting into trouble. Right? And I mean, that was obviously to a certain extent to showcase Harryhausen's talents, but there's a Slurposaur as the very first dinosaur you see, right? Because that one is clearly a real iguana.
Yeah, there's this weird mix, I think, to be a nod to the original, where they're using still real animals. Like, they take out that wild boar at the beginning in their hunt, very similar to the opening of the original film. I mean, beat-wise, it's pretty much the same movie. There's a few things they change, especially near the end, but for the most part, it travels the exact same road, but there's this bit where he falls into this cave that has more of that Cro-Magnon missing link kind of that mix between monkey and man living in it, and it's very savage, and even he recognizes this could be a bad place to be stuck in. And they inevitably wind up in it again because it's the only way he knows back, which is funny because the Shell tribe has no problem getting back just following the beach.
Yes.
Near the end of the movie, but when they come for assistance
inexplicably.
Well, that was because Loana got taken by the pterodon and managed to make her way back to her own tribe and brought them back for what? I wasn't sure. I guess because she wouldn't have been aware that Sakana was planning his own rebellion on his own tribe. So I'm not sure why she brought all her men back.
And that's what I mean by inexplicably.
Yeah. Right. That one, it didn't make a lot of sense other than having this climactic battle that got interrupted by a volcano. Because, as you do.
Yes, right. At least in the original, it made more sense that the sort of the alpha male from Loana's tribe, I can't remember his name, but
from Loana's tribe, I don't know. Like I said, trying to figure out everybody's names in this. Ahot,
I knew something like that
because they're all blondes. Yeah, and they managed to create a bigger love triangle that was kind of hinted at in the original film. In the 66, we've got Martine Beswick as Nupondi, which I think was the initial mate for Tumak, but Sakana having eyes on everything his brother owns.
Yes.
Takes his food, takes his women. It's You keep going. They're cavemen. They're cavemen.
Yeah, there's some Abel and Cain happening there. There's the toxic masculinity. There's so much happening in these things that we recognize now, and it's really interesting to see them portrayed as well as they were even in this movie, because those were some things that were portrayed really well.
Yeah, and I think that's something the 66 did fairly well, is kind of added to something that the 66 hinted at but didn't do, or the 1940 did but didn't do particularly well.
Yeah, it's so bad though.
This is the point where I'd probably run a trailer for the original, but I couldn't find one that wasn't just music, so I'll let you guys go find that on your own. You can find it on YouTube. There's a kind of a restored trailer for the restoration release. That
and there's lots of
see.
clips.
And there's a few clips. Finding the whole movie might be difficult, but on your own, because it's. I did wind up finding it on Dailymotion. It might not be there legally, but it's there.
Yep.
So you can check it out there if you want. And the 66 is much more readily available and has had several releases over the years. If nothing else, I'm sure your dads had posters on their walls.
Yes. Yeah.
I kind of want one myself.
Yeah,
I think that movie's more famous for its poster, because I was more aware of that poster than I ever was about what was in the movie, because I'm sure I'd seen it once. I don't remember it, to be honest, but I do remember the Allosaurus Triceratops fight from the 66.
Yes.
I remember that very well. That stood out in my brain big time.
Well, and the volcano exploding, because that's been reused in a number of other films, as have some of the both have.
1940's been used a lot.
It has been used a lot. A lot of unused footage from that movie has become stock footage. It became stock footage that was used a lot in westerns and other science fiction movies and other fantasy movies. The volcano from '66 was used in a Star Trek episode, if I remember correctly.
Oh, that I didn't read, but that's cool. It wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me either, especially given 1966, right? That's and studios love to cut corners by using footage from other movies, right?
And I'm sure a studio like Hammer, if they can sell some of that footage to other studios, that was probably fairly profitable for them.
Certainly, yeah, it would help undercut the cost of producing the
film.
film.
And I think this is probably one of the more expensive films for
given
them.
the fact that it actually had special effects.
Yeah, I couldn't find any budgetary stuff on the original film, but going back to 1940s, it's really tough to kind of get that information. And I don't know how much the 66 made, but its original budget was £422,816. So who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
Whatever the exchange rate was at that time, I don't know. But the pound's always been worth more than the U.S. dollar.
Yeah. So but even then, I mean, that's not that substantial of a budget, though.
I would say even in '66, that was probably about 800,000 U.S.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a reasonable budget given again the number of special effects in it. I mean, it's not like they needed much of a script, but
no, and you're using kind of a natural setting.
Yeah. So
you're not building a whole lot of sets, although they had to build the volcano.
Yes.
So, and I imagine there were a lot of actual stuff built for the 1940. I was reading that for the 1940, when you're seeing Sakana walking along, like it's a miniature background that's kind of, and he's walking on a treadmill, so the miniature's getting pulled to give that perspective. It works really well.
It works really well.
Because you don't notice it, really, but they did a hell of a job putting that all together.
The 40s still looks good. I mean, aside from the very theatrical acting, because it was very jarring.
Yeah.
But given they have no dialogue, right? I mean, it's all this made up caveman language, right? So they do a lot. They try to convey a lot through facial expression, and there's a lot of that in the remake too, especially from Tumak.
Well, I think you could tell that maybe they've did some research. By that point, there'd probably been a lot more research in nature documentaries on gorillas and monkeys and that sort of thing. So they tried to at least incorporate that a little bit within how these cavemen reacted to things. Yeah. You know, oh, we just killed the boar and they're jumping up and down like they're monkeys or chimpanzees.
Yeah, I mean, there is a certain there are improvements, like especially in terms of the way that they move and they act. But again, the actor plays Tumak in the remake, way overacting in his facial expressions sometimes. Like almost as bad as Victor Mature, not quite as bad, but almost.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably true.
Yeah, especially some of those end scenes. I'm like, why are you making that face?
There's Raquel Welch as Luana, and she looks wet and tanned all the time.
Yes.
She's got a lot of body oil, and I'm like, you're very different than everybody else here.
Yeah, they were capitalizing on something there, and well, we know what they were capitalizing on. Right? They were expecting that their audience would be teen boys looking for stuff for the spank bank.
I'm sure that worked.
I'm sure it did,
because it's still appealing.
Yeah, because there was one reviewer who essentially said that in kinder terms. Because it was the '60s, you don't get to say things like spank bank, but but yeah, he insinuated that that's what people are going to like about this movie.
Yeah. Well, let's get into a little bit of the 66 here. The screenplay was by Michael Carreras, and of course, special effects by legend Ray Harryhausen, who we've previously talked about in episode 43, Clash of the Titans.
Yes.
And of course, this starred. It was directed by Don Inofi, who. We'll probably touch on some of his stuff again, but he did Jason and the Argonauts, another Harryhausen movie, and Pete's Dragon for Walt Disney, which was remade fairly recently.
Yes.
It stars, of course, Raquel Welch from Bedazzled, which we covered in episode 122. John Richardson was Tumak, and he's mainly a TV guy. Percy Herbert was Sakana, and most famously for Guns of Navarone. Robert Brown was Akoba, who's more famous for being M in the 007 movies in the 70s and 80s.
70s and 80s, but not one of those we've covered. But
no.
There are two other Bond connections.
Martine Beswick was in several Bond movies, but we covered her in episode 34, Thunderball.
Yes, we did.
And after that, I'm not sure if there are any other ones, but John Walden, who was Ahot, who had been in lots of British TV stuff, but he was probably most famous for UFO, which I really liked when it made it over here, and Battle of Britain. I know I wasn't around in 66, but a lot of the stuff was in heavy repeats and reruns when I was a kid. Yeah.
We have a ton of connections in this movie.
Do we?
We do. Are these movies?
After I got to Ahot, I just stopped looking.
Yeah, because we had Percy Herbert. I was going to stop you there because he's been in 2 episodes prior to this one.
Has he?
Yes, he was in Night of the Demon.
Oh, yes.
So 111.
I can see where. Oh my God! I'm so proud of you.
Oh wait, but there's more. He was also in the original Casino Royale, episode 155.
Oh, Christmas doesn't end, does it?
Oh, but wait, there's more. So we had Raquel Welch from Bedazzled, episode 122, and we forgot to talk about Lon Chaney, who was in 2 of our episodes as well. He was in Abbott and Costello, episode 60. Even I got the episode numbers on.
Holy cow!
But wait, more. He was also in High Noon. Episode 47.
That's right.
There we go. So that's all I could find. But
okay, now everybody, you've got your homework. If you haven't listened to those episodes, there's your list.
Yeah, there's a whole shit ton of them.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about all those. At least Lon Chaney for sure. I know we've got another Raquel Welch. Will turn up again at some point.
Yeah. Especially considering I think they're talking about doing an actual remake of Fantastic Voyage now too.
Oh.
So, and then of course Inner Space is a backdoor remake that.
Sure. I mean, there was 10,000 BC that the amateurs did that was based on what this was.
Yeah, and then Caveman. And what did I text you when I first started watching the original, the remake? This feels very Quest for Fire.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there's plenty of movies that owe their existence to these ones.
That, for sure.
And have probably turned out better in some regards, but certainly not as well known. Maybe Quest for Fire.
Quest for Fire, yeah. I mean, that of all the ones that were better, this would be that would be the best one.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning them, but to be honest, I didn't want to watch 10,000 BC, so...
No, I was pretty much done with Caveman after watching both of these for a little while. Although I do now want to go back and watch Caveman with Ringo Starr because it's very clearly almost a parody of these two movies.
I just want to see Ringo act. I think that's be amazing.
Well, there's some,
I was actually surprised that they didn't just default to English in the UK one. That they didn't cheat.
They didn't cheat. No, and I'm very pleased and impressed by that. Although it does make both movies a little bit harder to watch when you don't have any dialogue. And I mean, it worked in Quest for Fire, so I don't know why I couldn't quite get as involved.
It makes it a lot harder for me to find clips too.
Yes. But yeah, I found it really hard to get involved in these movies, especially the remake, just because I didn't find the characters as well developed as I did in the original.
Yeah, I do. I'm with you there too. I think they developed them, spent more time, and that was one of the complaints back in 1940 is they didn't give enough of the dinosaurs, so the 66 was trying to up that a little bit, I think, in response to what the 1940 critics were like. But I think they did a much better job in developing that characterization and story, and of Luana coming back to his tribe and bringing, the traditions and things that the tribe have developed, like eating off plates and looking after the young and the old.
Yes.
And the sense of community. You're not just providing for yourself, but you're providing for everybody. Well, and you can see this piece coming over the Rock Tribe.
It was handled so much
because
better
of
in the
her
original.
presence.
Yeah, because she insinuated herself into their culture through kindness, right?
Yeah.
By giving gifts and teaching people how contact doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right. Like how human contact isn't just violence, right? Whereas in the remake,
she was giving away her necklace to get them the fuck away from her.
Yes.
Quit touching me.
Yeah, exactly. and then there's that fight too, which isn't in the original. Is that fight between Luana and Tumac's first partner, and in the synopsis they talk about how she refuses to. Oh,
that was complete exploitation. Let's get our two beautiful women to beat the shit out of each other.
Exactly, I found that it took away from Luana to a certain extent, because she was more about peace and cooperation, and instead we have this cat fight that wasn't even a good cat fight.
No,
and then there's the scene where she could quite easily kill Tumac's first Nupandi with the rock, and like I said, the synopsis says that she refuses to, but she looks to Tumac, and it's him who's changed, and he's like, "No, we're not going to do that."
Yeah,
right. And again,
it shows that he's learned, because he's thrown out of that the Shell tribe initially because they feel he hasn't changed enough, but in part this reluctant journey because Luana's fallen for him and followed him back to the Rock Tribe. That I think he probably would have just fallen in old habits if her presence hadn't been there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
I think that's a very important part of the story. And
by that point as well, I should say the brother Sakana has taken over the tribe, and the father who had initially thrown Takana out, or Tumac out, I should say, had been injured as well, and presumed killed.
Yeah, through Sakana's actions.
Yeah, through Sakana's actions.
Because he steps on his fingers to make him fall from a cliff.
Yeah.
In the remake.
And in that tribe, it's like, you fall, you're injured, you're useless. Yeah. And they don't go back for you, they don't help you, and he winds up finding his way back to the tribe. And
severely crippled.
Crippled, and he's fighting to survive as best he can, but he's no longer chieftain.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know how I missed it in the remake, but he's also exiled because he's now in a new place. At the end of the movie, he's in this really weird place that shows that it was clearly human construction at the end of the remake, and with a new tribe of exiles. Because that's when
there was this. Yeah, they'd split off at some point, and that was not shown very well in the film. Where when Tumac comes back and Sakana, I don't know. There's everybody's kind of willing to bow down to Tumac at that point, and Tumac suddenly become chieftain, and that doesn't sit well with Sakana, who kind of takes what he wants, not out of strength, but out of opportunity.
Yes, yeah, he's totally an opportunist. He's manipulative. He's not a nice person.
No, he waits for his moments. So Tumak's teaching him these things he's learned from the Shell tribe, creating spears and that sort of thing, and then when there's an opportunity on the hunt, he just takes some men that are loyal to him, and they split off.
Yeah.
And they don't share their kills or anything.
No, they're again, I mean, you want to talk about parallels to our current society. That's a really good example of people who refuse to change even though the world's changing around them. Right? It's so. I mean, there's lots to pull out of these movies. Right? Like if I were going to remake them, there's lots of great elements that we could use. But,
you know what? I do have a '66 trailer though. Want to hear it?
sure, yeah, well, let's do it.
This is more my kind of trailer too.
1 million years BC erupts on the screen with volcanic excitement. 1 million years BC, when the earth parted and the mountains fell. Primitive man and monstrous beasts fought each other to inherit the earth. Since time began has the primitive scene been captured for the screen with such imaginative realism. Behold man 1 million years BC. Introducing the fabulous Raquel Welch, the sensational star discovery of this or any other year in 1 million years BC. See her as Loana the Fair One, who deserted her tribe and risked her life to follow Tumak of the Rock People. John Richardson as Tumak, as big and strong as the beasts he fought for survival. Nupandi the Wild One, whom no man could resist. See the fascinating, strange, and fearful creatures who roamed and ruled the earth 1 million years BC. The Brontosaurus, a moving mountain of flesh and bone. The pterodactyl, a flying reptile with giant teeth. The flesh-eating Allosaurus. The Triceratops, a horned dinosaur in battle with the savage Ceratosaurus. You will share the unending thrills and excitement of a world of primitive wonders, of primeval terror and savagery. You will indeed live in another world, in another time, as the centuries fall back to reveal the Earth 1 million years BC. Introducing the fabulous Raquel Welch as Loana the Fair One. John Richardson as Tumak.
All right. Yeah, that was 1966. 1 million years BC.
That's how long it felt when I was watching it.
That would still only take you to 0.
I know, but it felt like it was 100 million years long.
I see. I obviously liked it a little bit more than you did.
I mean, I love the Harryhausen effects. Love them.
They're a bit arduous when you don't have much to grab onto. But.
And that was the thing is there was, again, it looked great. It looked absolutely fabulous. And some parts were very well done.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, I was thoroughly entertained by the Harryhausen bits. The giant turtle, the Triceratops Allosaurus fight, that was great. The pterodon scene, the Loana's taken, and then the birds are fighting, and all that stuff looked amazing. It did. So good.
It's a shame that people don't do stop motion anymore, because Harryhausen he didn't create it, but he certainly perfected an art form, because some of that stop motion stuff looks better than the CGI we're getting today.
Well, they're trying to make everything look organic and natural, and there's just something really charming about. Yeah, there's a herky-jerkiness to it, but I like it. I like it so much.
Yes, and I mean, with modern cameras and modern techniques and patience, you could probably get that herky-jerkiness down so smooth that it would look better than it still look even better than CGI.
Yeah,
and don't get me wrong, CGI has its place, but I think that the idea of using stop motion and CGI to sort of really smooth it out, you could get some really nice, realistic looking stuff.
Yeah,
I miss stop motion.
Yeah, me too. I think it's a bit of a lost art. I mean, we still get animation in a stop motion sense, but not that mix of in a real fantasy film like we used to in Jason the Argonauts and Clash of the Titans.
Yeah, and Sinbad.
Yeah,
I think we talked about that not that long ago. We mentioned that Sinbad was like the first place where we sort of both identified Harryhausen as somebody that we were big fans of.
Yeah, I actually have a customer at work, and he was partially responsible for bringing Harryhausen to the Tyrrell Museum here in Alberta.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, while he was still around, and there was one trip where they had brought up Walt Simonson, comic creator Walt Simonson, best known for his Thor comic books, but like he's very much into paleontology, so much so that his signature resembles a dinosaur.
Nice.
So there was, it's kind of funny to see the comic guys geeking out over the movie guys, and and both of them geeking out over the dinosaur museum.
That's really cool. That is really cool. And then we do have a really cool dinosaur museum.
We do. Yeah. We should make a trip out there one day. I haven't been since I was a teenager.
Yeah, I was probably early 20s last time I was out there.
Yeah. Maybe in my 20s, but yeah.
We have a Badlands that you've seen in many, many movies, actually.
Yeah. And if you're patient, you can walk around, and sometimes you might be able to find a fossil or two.
Yeah, or a rattlesnake.
You're more likely to find the rattlesnake, but don't recommend getting near that.
No. They warn you. That's why they have the rattle.
There was that big snake battle, too.
Oh,
was that in the 1940? That was in 1940, the snake in the tree?
The snake in the tree eaten by the badger thingy?
Was it a bear?
No, it was
a badger thing?
It was a badger thing. I'm not sure what kind of...
They had that armadillo, too.
The armadillo was hilarious. I'm sorry, that was so ridiculous. But it was so much fun to watch.
It was, and hearing the...
Yeah. Because it looked harmless. You could even it did not look threatening in any way.
So you made the humongous armadillo that didn't look threatening, and then the triceratops out of the pig. But I guess they had land a guy on it. So
yeah.
I'm like, you had elephants running around. Why couldn't you put another costume on an elephant?
Yeah, well, it's funny when I saw the triceratops, because I shot it from a distance. You thought it was a full-size triceratops, and then you get close, it's like, oh, it's so cute.
It was. He lands on it, and I'm like, dude, you would have walked up on it and kicked it.
Yeah.
It would have fallen over. They didn't even find themselves a big pig.
No, it was tiny.
It's like a little potbelly you keep as a pet.
I think I'm going to use that for our clip, for our GIF. I'm going to see if I can find that clip. It's so cute.
Yeah, I'm still worried about the animal cruelty part of it, but the first thing I thought of was like, oh, that poor animal.
Yes. Well, I mean,
I felt that a lot in that movie.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, but when you first see the Triceratops before the act of violence, it's really cute.
It is. It's adorable. Yeah, if you do that clip, it's fine.
Yes.
Not the guy landing on it.
No. No.
Because I'm sure that poor pig got hurt.
I'm sure it was at the very least traumatized.
Yeah.
It was really rough.
I think they crushed a lizard too. When the volcano erupted.
Yeah, that was
the lizard was trying to eat people, and then these rocks.
Yes, yeah.
Actually, the people caused the rock slide.
Yes, yeah. And I mean, I don't know because it wasn't moving after they dropped all those rocks.
No, that was why I was upset about that scene. I'm like,
and there's the scene where the Earth is opening up and trapping all.
Then he fell in. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure
and it crushed his leg.
They had one there that was clearly trapped by its leg, right? Because you could tell it was in distress. It's just really difficult to watch that the end third of the movie because there are a lot of things there that.
Yeah, it's upsetting.
Are upsetting, especially in our more sensitive world. And I mean, if you've listened, Jay and I are far from being the most sensitive people in the world. We're not snowflakes. We're not.
No, but we do love animals more than people.
For the most part, yes. But we're still sensitive enough to recognize that was cruel.
Yeah.
Because it was. There's no question. But again, in the 1940s, there was no Humane Society. There was
nobody to stop them from doing that. And it's,
nobody
other
cared.
than their own desire. Wow. I'm sure people cared.
Yeah, but there were no active groups saying this is not acceptable, this is not right.
Yeah.
And because it's a different culture, different time.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and that goes back to what I was talking about.
Which is interesting because when the U.S. imported that over to the U.K., they did have laws in place.
Yes.
And did heavily edit that film because of it. So it's not like the entire world was behind.
No, it exactly parallels the movie.
Yeah.
It exactly parallels the movie.
Yeah, which is really funny that, and maybe that's why it's important to maybe watch something like that to see how far we've come. It's like you should, and that's something I very much like guys like Harryhausen and even CG guys, because you don't have to use animals now for these to do this anymore.
Exactly, and
I mean, there's something to be said about seeing a real animal on screen. Disney did it quite well, but to have to train and entice an animal that might not be willing to do this, I'd rather just special effects can take care of that now, thank God.
Yes, I totally agree, because you still feel that discomfort, but in a different way, right? When you see it in CGI.
Well, when you have that CGI or even Harryhausen type effects, you're not looking at something real anymore, so you're less worried and concerned about it because it's just all programmed in. So, if an animal dies a horrible death in a CGI movie, there was no animal there.
Yeah, you do. I mean, it still impacts you somewhat on that in the lizard brain, but not the way it does in your conscious mind watching something like.
Yeah, because we can recognize real and not real.
Yeah, because it was very uncomfortable, and I probably, if I were watching it for my own personal viewing, I probably would have turned it off.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I'm like, I don't want to see more of this. And that was fairly early in the movie. The first 10 minutes, I was ready to oh man, if this.
And it gets worse at the end.
And it does. Yeah. It does. So I was, as an animal lover that I am, that was a bit rough to sit through those scenes. But like I said, the movie's not without its merits, and obviously Hammer Films thought so because they remade it.
Yes. Yes, they did, and they had a great opportunity that I think that they missed, because there like I said, aside from the Harryhausen stuff and Raquel Welch in a bikini, they didn't add anything to the movie.
No, they really they let Harryhausen stuff shine, and Martine Beswick and Raquel Welch also shine.
Yes,
literally, they were shiny.
They were literally shiny all the way through the movie. Yes.
They were definitely cavemen above the rest.
Yes.
They were very, very ample.
Yeah, they were the next step in the evolution of man.
Yeah, I still don't think we've evolved.
Of Homo sapiens. Let's not be...
They were something special. They're obviously trying to titillate the young viewer, for sure.
Oh, there's no question.
And I mean, it's Hammer. They could have, they did a lot of nude stuff in their movies, and they could have easily made that an R-rated film if they wanted to, but they tried to stick with the movie that they obviously liked from the U.S. So
yeah, for sure. And I think part of it too is they knew who their audience was, because this movie is
they were definitely
aimed at 13, 14-year-old boys, more so than anybody else.
Yeah. And I don't think you could have got Raquel Welch to do a nude scene.
No, I don't think so. I don't think she's that type of actress. She never was, right?
No.
And I respect that integrity, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. As a model, she was comfortable wearing.
She had no problem with her clothes falling off all the time. Even Fantastic Voyage does that.
Yes,
so.
But there's
white blood cells must eat clothes.
Yes, because she was a model, and she knows that she understands that a certain amount of skin is acceptable, but she had a line, right?
Yeah.
Which again, you have to respect. And there's a lot of actors out there now who have modeled themselves with that. And
it's funny. It's interesting that Martine Beswick isn't just as well known for this movie as Raquel Welch was, and that iconic pose that became the poster obviously set that apart. But Martine Beswick was a multi-time Bond girl.
Yes.
More than once.
More than once, yes. Yeah. She never got that exposure, and that's the funny thing about. I mean, it's the nature of celebrity, right?
Yeah.
Is you can have somebody who's equally as competent and equally as beautiful, but if they don't get that name recognition.
Well, I think maybe part of it too. She was a UK actress, whereas Raquel Welch is based out of the US.
Yeah.
So,
And
that just comes to maybe the exposure within our side of the planet.
And that's largely part of it too. Is the nature of English celebrity or UK celebrity versus North American celebrity.
And it's
very
not
different.
like now where we're all connected by multimedia now. So, those borders of actresses and stuff has become less of a thing. It's still there. There's still very much regional actors and actresses and that are more famous in certain areas of the world than others.
Yeah.
But I think that line's getting less and less hard.
Yeah.
It's a more blurred line now.
Yeah, but you still find a lot of these English actors who've have reached success, and actually Jet Li's a really good example. Who's not an English actor, but
Yeah, there's crossover actors.
yeah, who chose to go back to China because he did not like being a celebrity in North America.
Yeah.
Because he preferred the way the celebrities are treated in his home country, just because they're a lot less invasive. I mean,
Well, and I think even in Canada, we're not nearly as invasive as they are in the UK and the US.
that's exactly right. Yes, but yeah, there's UK celebrities who've gone back and said that they've gone back saying I prefer the quiet celebrity life that I get in the UK versus the.
Which is an interesting thing to say, considering their paparazzi is famous for being even more intrusive than the US paparazzi.
But yeah, it's more so royals and sports stars than it is actors.
True. And I actually like how the UK treat celebrity, because sometimes they'll just make a celebrity out of a smart person.
Yes.
And I think that's awesome. We're like, oh, that young professor guy is a celebrity out there. Like, they hold scientists and other scholars in high regard as well. And I'm like, that's cool. Like, I wish we had more of that here.
Yeah, we have a few.
Yeah, we do.
Famous
David Suzuki.
David Suzuki, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah. Tyson just took a bit of a beating this
Yeah, he
week,
did, but certainly, I mean, not the best example, but an example. Hawking was obviously probably one of the most famous celebrity scientists.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I mean, he has been since the '60s. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Well, '70s maybe, but I mean, we've really veered off course here, haven't we?
That's okay. Like, we kind of went through the films are the same for the most part.
Yeah.
The climactic scene with the volcanoes, a little different, but
A little bit different. Actually, we
they
could talk
both
about the
kind of
endings.
they both kind of just end. I'm like, what? No end narration? Nothing?
Nothing. And there's a comment about that in one of the articles I read about the original. Is the actor who plays the narrator at the beginning of the original only has credits at the beginning of the movie. He does not have credits at the end of the movie, which I thought was really neat. Is well, because he's only at the very beginning of the movie and then never appears again.
Yeah.
So they didn't even bother putting him in the end credits.
Well, I was left with some questions, like much like the both movies at the end with the volcano and the rock slides and mudslides and stuff. The survivors kind of two tribes become one.
Yes,
and which is good because less intermingling of DNA and all that.
Well, that and again, it show. I think it was intended to show how one culture can impact another.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I was like, well, what happened to the people from Oktoberfest?
Yes, yeah, there was no closure on that at the end of the original for sure.
And it feels a little more bleak ending in the '66. Like, the two tribes become one. Yeah, because like everything's laid waste to the rock tribes' terrain. They have nowhere left to go. I assume they're going to go back to where the rest of the Shell tribe is based out of, a little more stable of a territory, although it seems to be more impacted by wildlife than the rock tribe was.
Yes.
But I would assume that's where they would go, but they were just kind of like, after fighting and then getting ravaged by a volcano, they all just kind of walk off together. Like, well, that kind of sucked.
Yeah, but and there's that kind of beaten look to them as they walk as well. Yeah. And I mean, that would be what would happen is you'd have a natural disaster and you'd have to, and you'd pick up the pieces of your tribe and you'd go find a new place.
Yeah.
Right. Quest for Fire did that really, really well. When we're going to throw back to that because it was clearly influenced by this film, or these films, I should say. But yeah, that seems to be more what would happen, right? Rather than sort of the happy looking into the sunset kind of thing of this new nuclear family of Tumak, Luana, and the orphan child. Right? I mean, it kind of covered more because it sort of it shows how a tribe can survive by taking in and supporting each other. And I think that was what the intent of that ending kind of was, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how much intent was actually in this movie, but that's what I took from it anyhow.
Yeah. By the way, it was bear versus snake.
It was bear versus
I
snake?
actually did write it down. It's bear
It didn't look like a bear to me.
It was a bear.
But yeah, I mean, that snake definitely was,
bit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no question.
No.
One thing is, I didn't think it was a real snake at first.
No, I didn't either.
and then you saw it kind of fighting back. I'm like, oh, I'm really uncomfortable now.
Yeah, it was like, oh, the bear's ripping it apart. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't like snakes, but I don't want to see that.
Yeah, we've covered.
Yeah, I actually genuinely felt bad for that snake.
Well, outside of the animal cruelty, I mean, that's something we learn from too, right? And the message of the film is still a good one, a moral one. So, learn from your mistakes, learning how to be better as a community.
Yeah, and there is a message in here if you choose to take it. And certainly I found it more noticeable in the original. Like I said, I didn't really like either movie. I loved the way the remake looked. Right? I mean, even now it still looks really good.
Yeah.
Right? But as far as the story goes, I found that it was easier to follow in the original.
I'd be interested to see what a modern day version of this now, like with the modern effects or whatever. I mean, I guess that would technically be 10,000 BC. Because they wouldn't want to fight against what historical accuracy is. But if you could just throw that away and do man, I guess that's Jurassic Park, but
yeah, there's
if man and dinosaur coexisting, I don't know. It's always been an interesting fantasy. I liked it as a kid. That thought of man coexisting with dinosaur. It never happened, but
no, it never happened yet. But yeah, I mean, it was, and as a child, as a young person, wasn't as familiar with the historical fact. Both movies would have been a lot of fun. Right?
Sure, what kid doesn't like a dinosaur?
Yeah, exactly. Right? Even one that's a baby alligator with a fin glued to its back.
You take what you can get.
Yeah. Yeah. That scene with the baby alligator and the other lizard was also extremely painful to watch. But I wondered, did they just put them in a space together and let them fight, and whichever one won?
I don't know. Like you would think the alligator would have been trying to get that thing off its back most of the time, but it was fighting like it was fighting like an alligator would, grabbing by the neck and then flipping around.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was pissed off. They mustn't have fed them or something, but.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, it was very difficult to watch, and certainly if you do watch it, you feel comfortable just skipping over that part of it, fast forward, so you don't have to watch it because it's really uncomfortable. Yeah, no, you do realize you're watching two animals fight for real, and one of them does not make it. Spoilers. Yes, yeah, and the iguana at the end.
Yeah, that's why the Harryhausen sits with me better, I think, is because I know I'm not watching anything that's actually on screen and real. So yeah, I mean, there were some real animals in there,
but none of those were harmed.
But none were harmed, and none were in combat. Yeah. So that was fine by me.
Yeah, like I said, the opening scene with the iguana, I really enjoyed that. I'm like, slurp score. Yeah, and because I didn't think there were any in the remake, and so to see one was really nice, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was nice that they appreciated their source material and just how kind of cheesy it really was. They're just like, yeah, it's fine. It's okay to be a little camp sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But all in all, I mean, I will not be going back to these movies.
No. Well, I might freeze frame on Raquel a little bit, but
I'm sure there's a clip of just of her scenes there, Jay.
I'm sure there is.
They were definitely products of their time.
Yeah, for sure. 1 million BC. We'll just leave them there.
Yes. Yeah.
They're fine for what they were, and we certainly got a great poster to pin up on our walls from them, and maybe a decent message along the way, and a not so good one that they had to learn from. But that's Hollywood developing and becoming more moral in their storytelling and how they make a picture, and they still make mistakes. But
Yeah.
trust me, as somebody who's worked on the inside, they the humans treat each other pretty shitty sometimes on sets.
Yeah, it's just like the real world, right?
Yep. All right, well, that was 1 million years BC. It was interesting to go back to something older, an older remake. We haven't, we tend to do more modern remakes of, of something that's an older movie, and here's a remake of an older movie that's still old.
Yes. Older than either of us, actually.
That's right. So I'm sure our dads had those posters.
Entirely possible, yeah.
Yeah.
Entirely possible, yes.
Or a pinup of Raquel Welch from another film. She had to have easily been the 60s pinup girl. Like,
well, for sure, because she was
all over the world.
Yeah, and she was modeling prior to then, right? So,
yeah.
So I mean, she didn't go straight into acting. She had a career, right? She was one of the first, I dare say, supermodels.
Yeah, would have been like, well, her, Bo Derek was the 70s.
Bo Derek would have been the 70s, yeah.
Yeah, just superstar pinups.
Yep. Yeah,
Interesting.
And Farrah Fawcett, of course, but she was a
Farrah
model,
Fawcett.
but she was definitely like one of the first, one of the iconic pinups that we would remember.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the pinups have been go back further than that. I mean, you've got Betty Page and
Oh, sure.
all those pinup girls from the.
But you don't get like the superstar pinups is like that anymore. I mean, that almost stopped in the 90s. I think Kathy Ireland was like one of the more last really famous.
And
And she wasn't much of a actress, but she was on a lot of lockers.
Yeah, I think that's just.
Maybe I'm just getting older and pulling away from it. But
Well, I think there's cultural changes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, viewing women as a sex object is not. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it happens in our minds.
I mean,
more
when
than through
Playboy
media.
even was out for a short period was taking the nudity of their magazines. That showed quite a bit of change.
Yeah, it made them GQ, but
Yeah,
well,
they learned quickly that wasn't going to sell a magazine. But
no, but certainly.
what do you mean they don't buy it for the articles?
Yeah, but yeah, it's, viewing women as sex objects through physical media, I mean, is less popular. Right? I mean, let's face it. I mean, porn's never going away.
No.
Certainly is not going away. And people are more honest about their porn viewing habits than they used to be. Right, that most people acknowledge that it's some point in their lives they have watched or will watch or do watch it, but we don't post that out there for everybody else to see. Right, like we don't have posters of semi-nude women. We don't have pinups in our locker.
Yeah, it's not like that. Even when I watch an older movie and you see like some centerfold from a porn magazine, and even in a background of a scene or something, and I'm like, wow, they just don't do that anymore. And if they do, it's to show how skeevy a dude is now.
Yes.
It's not something normal.
Yeah, no, it's
people
not.
do.
It's definitely something that culturally unevolved people do. Yes.
Yeah, well, it's probably because we've moved away from print and everybody just downloads it as wallpaper on their phones.
Well, yeah, fair enough. Right, and that may be certainly a factor as well. But looking at us getting all cerebral again.
But dinosaurs.
Totally dinosaurs. Really bad dinosaurs and really good Harryhausen stop-motion dinosaurs.
That's right. Let us know what Harryhausen movie you'd like to see us do next. We'll do another one inevitably, but maybe you can tell us what the next one will be. It won't be right away because we just did one, like right now, the second. You just listened to it. But if there's a Harryhausen movie you want us to do next, let us know. You can do that on all our social media platforms at Invasion Remake on Twitter, Invasion of the Remake on Facebook and Instagram, and Invasion of the Remake at gmail.com. You can also let us know any of your suggestions, your corrections, your comments at any of those places as well. We're happy to hear from you, and it's Sam and I you'll be interacting with, so don't hesitate to let us know what's going on in your brains and what movies you'd like to see us do next, because we got a whole year ahead of us and we got all sorts of cool things planned, including Women of Horror Month all month long in February.
Yes we do, and that's going to be a fun one for sure. Mm-hmm. I think that we have got some fun content planned for everybody, and as usual we'll be
Are we crazy to do another month of horror after doing October?
Well, we're not doing 31 days of horror and
No.
our regular episodes, so it's not as crazy.
Yeah.
And certainly, this is a great opportunity because Women in Horror Month isn't just about women in horror. It's also a blood drive.
And, it's a good time for us to do it as well. This is marking the 10th anniversary of the Women in Horror movement and that big blood drive. So we're gonna go do something special for its 10th anniversary, and I don't know if it'll happen every February, but we'll certainly drop our acknowledgments every year as well, even if it winds up being 1 or 2 episodes instead of 4. But this February we're going to go all out for women in horror because they deserve it. And it's not just, it's going to be like the writers and the directors and the actresses from these type of films that we're going to recognize.
Some of our friends from All the Horror are going to be doing some content as well. So definitely watch the All the Horror feed because it's not going to be just us. We're championing it, but we're not by any means the only people from that group who are going to be dropping women in horror content that month.
Absolutely. From a couple of guys talking about women in horror.
Some of our favorite horror movies have been directed by women, feature women.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you think all the best horror movies tend to be with female leads. So without women in horror, we wouldn't have probably 70% of the horror we have. So
it certainly is, and that's exactly it. And I mean, there's a whole discussion that can be had there about the Scream Queens, which we might get into in February, or we might not. We'll see. Yeah,
we'll see. Like we always do, we'll see where the conversation takes us. Yes. But we still got lots of January left to go. Why don't you tell your friends that what we got coming up? You already know Women in Horror is coming up, and make sure if you have friends who aren't listening to us, please tell them where to find the show. We're in lots of different places, so just search us out. The top places, iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play Music, Radio Public. We're in all those places, and we're even on frickin' YouTube.
And don't forget to check out our Linktree page because it has links to pretty much anywhere that we know you can find us.
Yeah, we got a links to on our Instagram and Twitter page. Yep. You can find the link tree there, and from there it'll take you to wherever you want to go. So just check it out. It's got all our social media links on there. It's got all of the links that we're aware of places you can find the show, and as that grows, we'll grow the link tree as well.
Yep. Yeah, we're trying to make it as easy as possible for you to find us.
That's right. It's that's the whole point of it. Is we don't want to make it difficult for you to find us.
And tell your friends how to find us.
And absolutely, we do rely on you as well to spread the word. Please leave a 5-star rating and a short review wherever you find us, and tell everybody about the show. Become an invader and spread the invasion.
Please,
pretty please. Pretty please.
Just do it already.
I'll send Raquel Welch to your house. No, I won't.
Yeah, she probably wouldn't want to go. She's 68, I think she is now. Or 78.
Yeah.
78, I think.
And I bet she looks great still. Last time it's been a while since I've seen her in anything, but even in her 60s when I saw her, I'm like, damn, she just aging gracefully.
Yeah, aging gracefully, taking good care of herself, which is what we should all do, but we don't.
No. All right. Well, I'm Jason.
I am always Sam.
And we'll see you next week on Invasion the Remake. We are out of here.
Oudala.
Oudala. Oudala.
Ahot.
Ahot. Ahot.
Ahot. Luana.
Ahot.
Ahot. Luana.
Tumak. Tumak.